Hi, my name is Stephen. I was born in Venda, in a rural village called Kwerekwere. So it's in the province of Limpopo. But since the age of 2, I've actually since then been in KZN. My parents were both domestic workers in a place called Venda. But over all of these years, 40 years, I've always been treated and referred to as a foreigner. I've been looked at as a foreigner. I've been called all the names. I've been called Kwerekwere. I've been called Shangan, which, by the way, Shangan is Venda as well, from Venda. I've been called Nigerian. I've often been told, you are in KwaZulu Natal. Why can't you speak isiZulu? I've been told this is our province. And this comes from our Zulu brothers and sisters, especially the brothers, I must add. And also, interestingly enough, a lot of it has come from law enforcement officers, be it a roadblock, be it a stop and search. When I would attend functions and, you go through the metal detectors, those comments and questions and that would come up. Just to give you a little bit of information, I started a CMT, a clothing manufacturing plant, about 8-9 years ago. And in a very short space of time, by God's grace, that had grown to around 350 staff that I employed. My vision extended further than that, because in a place where we were, which is Hammersdale, we found that there's a lot of abuse on women and children. A lot of the staff would come to work and you hear this horrendous stories of how children are being raped. We would often be called to the police station of where some of our staff were raped. I'll never forget a 2-year toddler that was a daughter of one of our sisters that worked for me, was raped. We have child-on-child rape. It's just shocking what happens in these communities. So then I had it on my heart to then open an ECD of where mom comes to work, literally here, and across is the ECD of where we were blessed to have over 150 babies that we looked after. I didn't ask for any assistance. It was my vision. It was something that we felt that we needed to do. On a monthly basis, a wage bill would be about 1.2 million rands, so 1.2 going into different families. Hammersdale in itself has a history of youth or children-run homes, because when IFP, ANC were fighting back in them days, and there would be a whole massacre of the family, a child would escape under the bed, and then you see an article, 7 family members butchered, one survives, baby survives. That baby has now become the young youth that I am having to deal with. So you can imagine the moral. There's no morals. There's very, very little families in Hammersdale. And it's just, but with all of that, I saw it as home. I saw KZN as home. I saw all of the different races and cultures that we have. I totally embraced it. I come from a communication background, so I really thrived in it. But I was always reminded that you're not from here, you're a foreigner. But I would swim through it. I would work through it, and I'd look at the brighter side of it. Until everything, literally, I was just losing and losing against the constant fights, the battles, the threats, near-death experience of when my own family was shot at close range, 4-5 meters, And we still pushed. But then I think at some point, as hard as I pushed, and God knows how hard I pushed, the push and the force was just beyond my strength. We had one of the big issues in textile is obviously the imports. So imports killed everybody, and we were one of the few that was stumbling and surviving. Then we had Dudula. I will never forget how Dudula up in Joburg started streaming down into KZN, into the Hammersdale areas, and the whole thing of foreigners being kicked out. I had foreigners that used to work for me, very small percentage. And the issue about the foreigners is that before COVID, many foreigners had the documentation. And then when COVID hit, and by the way, we were at 80 staff. During COVID, in the heart of COVID, we jumped from 80 staff then to 350 staff. That's how the business just boomed. And you would find that the staff that had documentation, now during and obviously after COVID, you would find our borders were open and Lesotho's would be closed, and Lesotho's would then be open and then ours would be closed, and then we offline, and then Malawi is closed, and for you to get to Malawi you need to go through Zim, and then Zim has got an issue, and then Beitbridge is offline. So I think the complexity of it, and then you have now a person who's overstayed by 1 day, and 1 day is 1 day, it's overstay, and then it starts costing a lot of money. And now these people need to go back to Home Affairs. And then there's threats of them being arrested. And I don't even think that as a country, a government, much thought was given in terms of, hey, we've had all of these issues. How do we address this backlog? For example, maybe it would have been good to say, okay, let's then put a month of where everybody, gets a chance to update their work. And I think even now we're seeing all of these, this march on march and so on. It's directed to the wrong place. You need to go and address it back at Beitbridge, back at the border posts, back with the other countries. Sit with them and say, we both have a problem. How do we address this? Going and whipping and beating up people, I mean, it's not African. How do you go there with a whoop and just start whooping people that you don't even know what the issue is? You don't know if they are documented, not documented, and whether they're documented or undocumented. It's still wrong, but anyways, it's all done in front of the police officers. What type of message are we sending out there to investors? And the warning to KZN, and I don't know who needs to hear this and who needs to get this. And I'm kind of playing the race card here in terms of saying, nangu muntu mnyama wakhuluma. There's a black person talking. Can we maybe listen to him without thinking that it's a white person saying it, it's an Indian person saying it, and therefore there's other motives? I've got nothing to lose. I've lost everything. I've lost everything through Dudula, through the floods. We had one flood, second flood. I don't know if people know about that. Looting came through. It just destroyed us. The business protection, the threats that I've had, the people tracing me, people knowing where I live, telling me and threatening me. You just can't come out. You can't come out. I'm sitting here and I have closed everything. And you might even find somebody who's sitting and watching this and saying, but this, he's still this, or he thinks he's... And it's so dangerous to even share as a black person, because now you're called the clever darky. And maybe, maybe that's what you want to call me. Maybe rather call me the experienced darky that has experience what us as Africans can do to each other. And it's really, really sad. I have tried. We had a plant that was producing 41,000 units in 46 hours of boxer shorts. Another 36,000 units in 46 hours of denim. It was going to be something that, as Africans, as Africa, we could be proud of. I had a pending contract that was going to grow the employment to 500 full-time staff in Hammersdale, KZN. And because of Dudula, client comes 1 week, everything is fine, we're finalizing contracts, and the very next month they come and they say, Stephen, what happened? And I say, no, we've got this Dudula, however we're sorting it out and so on. What do you think that does to investor confidence? There are some investors, I know big investors, that have pulled out. There are a few, I think about 14 to 15 clothing factories that I know, because we rub shoulders, we share ideas, that have pulled out. They're going to Swaziland, Lesotho. I know this might not even mean anything to anybody now, but you're going to see it next year or in a few months' time. I think Mkwanazi's got bigger problems coming in terms of the unemployment rate is going to shoot so high, and we are going to see the impact through crime. Because we'll start looting, we're going to start stealing, whether big scale, small scale, whatever it is, because people are going to be hungry. Now, you can fight all we want. In the clothing space, my bit of information and what I've seen is that the skill, so local skill, has pensioned out, has worn out. Those mothers and fathers and uncles and aunties that used to work in factories, they're old now. And in between, I think in the last year, in the last 10 years when this was fading out, then came imports which were shooting up. Then government forgot and did not focus on growing the industry, in the textile industry. Now we've got a lot of interest and people are waking up and saying, hey, hang on, we need to revive the clothing and textile and footwear and leather industry. But at the same time, the skills was dropping. And foreigners were taking those places. Now you look at somebody from Malawi. I've never had issues with all of these different brothers and sisters from the SADC and from Africa. In fact, they are most pleasant people to work with. They come in, the core thing is to work, to send money back home. Just like me, come to work, to send money back home. And in my home, it's right here in Hillcrest and back in Venda to my parents. I think there's nothing wrong with that. However, what we then found is that you use a place like Hammersdale, which was the ancestor of textile, by the way, all the way from the manufacturing of fibers into fabric, thread, dyeing of thread. We had Gilly who used to dye thread. We had huge factories that used to make fabrics, and I hear all of these wonderful stories from older folks. And I thought as a 40-year-old I could give my part, and I did, but with no support. Then we've got a generation of 25s to 30s just come out of school, no skill at all. But more importantly, no morals, no values, no discipline, as our previous generations had. So now I've got a youth coming through with a CV which helps me with nothing. CVs don't give you a skill. So we've got to start off from scratch. And part of starting off from scratch, I felt like a bigger brother all the time by teaching values. Come to work on time. And by the way, this is training. I've trained over 2,000 youth free of charge. I didn't even go and do the registration and all the paperwork. I said, people need work, skills is the way to go. Let me train. I did my share. And whilst training, I had a raid in my factory with all of the departments of who and whatever. But the most painful part, and I think this is where the last blow, was when Department of Home Affairs raided my factory, did not find foreigners in our staff. However, they picked a few of us. And from the people that they picked, 2 were from Lesotho, not Lesotho, from Kwakwa. 1 was from the South Coast. And 7 of us were from Venda, including myself. And although we told them our IDs, gave them all the information, just because people want to be hostile, tribalistic, antagonistic, nothing positive. They wanted to load us in a van and take us down to Pinetown while we're working and operating. Now you tell that to anybody who runs a factory. If you are running high volume, high capacity at that, you tell that to anybody and they'll tell you it's murder, you're dead for that day and for the rest of the week. And took us down to Pinetown, like absolute foreigners. And systems was off. We had to wait. And after checking, we then verified. And lo and behold, all of us were South African. What do you call that? What is it that drives that? What's the motive behind that? I think KZN and the leaders, the advisors, you're going to have to really, really relook and sit down and listen. I know people are watching this and fuming and finding all the different words to call me and to name me and to sway me. I know. We have that. In fact, it's just not abantu bemnyama. It's I think everybody, every human. But for just my request is just to think through these things. What type of legacies are we going to leave? I'm out. I've pulled out of the province. I've lost everything. And I never built for myself. I thought I was building for Africa. Others, investors, they don't have time to do this. They see the threat, they jump and they leave. Others who are thinking of coming to KZN, they see all of that. Imagine what this does to the tourism industry. If you are coming from Africa and you want to come down and visit KZN, of which KZN survives on the tourism industry, what do you think the beaches are going to look like? Right down to the man who just came to spend 1,000 rand for that week. He's now scared because he is Shangaan. He is Venda. And you might not know this because I used to work in the tourism industry in KZN. There's thousands, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of vendors that come to KZN and boost the tourism industry. The amount of school buses, the hotels, the impalas, the beachfronts cannot even house them. That's how many of them come. The boat operators will tell you, full to capacity. I'm speaking about just textile. And I think that a lot of thought needs to be placed on that. KZN is volatile. It's aggressive. It just wants to fight. It's not safe. It's violent. It's xenophobic. That is KZN. And I'm a small drop in the ocean. And what I'm saying is what other investors are saying. Now, you might not call me an investor. Rather call me a child of KZN. And the child of KZN is speaking. And I just hope that we'll take it seriously. Because I've got my kids are here. My family is here. This was home for all of these years. But I can tell you, I don't feel the same about KZN anymore. It's as if I've got to be selfish just to protect the little that I have. Let's sit.
We are opening our doors as a church. And we are saying, immediately when you get in, we will invite Home Affairs to come put a desk there and help you register for an asylum. A documentation that says, I ran away from my country. I ran away because there's war. And can I please seek refugee here? And we invite Home Affairs. Home Affairs, what you can do is you can find volunteers like you do in the IEC. There's elections. You find volunteers. Volunteers, they are stationed in churches, big churches. And they sit there. And these people, they have up until 30 June to present themselves. It's not in a police station. We will not arrest you. We will not do anything. Come to the church. Let's give you the right help. And people get there, they sit down, they register their names, their physical addresses, ID numbers, and all these things, and we give them a documentation. The church can say, we can help. The church can help these guys in giving them, or if they want to go home, we can open our doors to say, if you guys want to go home, come to church every Saturday. From morning up until 12 o'clock, the church is open for any illegal foreigner that's really sick and tired of being here and they really want to go home. When you come here, we'll try and raise funds for you. So there's many things. We have an open discussion. We get involved. These guys, they break their houses, they break their spaza shops. They don't have places to sleep. We open our church, we get involved. They must come and sleep in our churches. And tomorrow, we make sure we send them back wherever they need to be sent them back. We give them help, we give them food and all these things. What do you think?